When the sun sets, the undead awaken. To slake their hunger, they feed upon the herd of unaware mortals. Right beneath our noses, the kindred clash against their rivals as they vie for control of the city of San Francisco. Are you strong enough to cheat final death and see another night? Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game from Renegade Game Studios.
Good evening, family, and welcome to Vampire Wednesday. I am Matt Holland here in beautiful San Francisco, along with Matt Hyra, the game's designer, and we are here to celebrate, Matt.
Indeed,
Excited?
yes, it's amazing. My first game with Renegade, so that's great. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the first actual game to come out that you did with Renegade. That's
Yes,
really
indeed.
exciting.
Yeah,
And it's
a
been a long
milestone.
road.
It has been. It's been a great journey. Everything's been, other than the pandemic, everything went according to plan. You know, it pushed us back about 3 months, but hey, we're celebrating the release now. It's awesome.
Yes, so if you are tuning in and are wondering, like, why are we celebrating? Today is the official retail release date for Vampire Rivals, Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game. So you can go to your friendly local game store, you can pick up a copy and get started playing. Most of you who are Kickstarter backers should already have your stuff. I know in a couple regions, fulfillment is lagging just a bit, so we do apologize for that, but most of you should have it, and if not, it is on the way.
Yeah, some of our European backers live in castles that don't tend to have addresses, so it's a little tougher. So
Yeah, and that's one of those things. You know, some of these
Yep.
vampires are hard to find, which is, you know, a good thing when the likes of the Second Inquisition come looking for you, but
Yep.
not so good when you're waiting for your Kickstarter.
Too much secrecy.
Excellent havens there for the Europeans.
Mhm.
So Matt, you're excited. This is your first game with Renegade, you said.
Yeah,
What's been the thing you've been most looking forward to seeing from the community now that they get the game in their hands?
sure. Well, yeah, because it's a brand new game and a system that has not been played before, right? It's
Sure.
not based on another trading card game style,
Yep, the engine.
expandable card game style. I just like seeing people take it out for a test drive. You know, I like to watch games, whether people are posting games wherever they are. I like to see how well people understand the rules after reading through the rule book just one
Sure.
time.
This is
And
kind of the
playing
trial
the
by
game.
fire.
Yeah, it's good to see that. You need that kind of feedback to make improvements. And certainly for our tournament rules, we're going to want to shore up any places that were a little confusing, you know. But
Yep. I've
being
seen a
out
lot of
there
chatter in
now,
Discord about some of the things that
yeah,
are, when you're playing on a kitchen table, not a big deal. You know, how do I do the secret bidding and stuff like that
right,
will spell out in the tournament rules, because in a competitive environment like that, you don't want to have any ambiguity there that could lead to
yeah,
hard feelings.
yeah. And you know, kitchen table games, people will come up with little shortcuts here and there, and you know, if that happens to be with bidding for schemes and other things, that's totally fine. You know, I mean, unless you're playing in a tournament, you can make little house rules if you need to, just to smooth things out for the players. Some players may not be up for a mid-level complexity ECG. You know, there's
Sure.
a commitment to building your own deck, right?
Oh, certainly.
It's like showing up to a D&D game for your first time and they tell you, hey, why don't you make a character before you show up? It's like, whoa,
Yeah,
you
there's a
know.
lot
So
of possibilities. And
yeah,
to foreshadow a little bit, we have at the end of this stream a segment where we will give you some ideas or some sort of nuggets to build on for decks. So,
yeah,
well, that's really awesome. So the game's out. Obviously, people have seen we have I know the first expansion has been floating around a little bit online. We're going to have a lot more information coming on that very, very soon. But
mhm.
for people who are wondering, just how far ahead does the team work when they are creating content for this game? So we can assume the first expansion's probably done.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Second
Well,
expansion later this year, so that's well on its way.
true. Well, consider that because of because of the pandemic, we got an extra 3 months of no boats coming across the ocean.
Sure.
So that caused us to be kind of way ahead. We actually have 3 expansions already done, and the first 2 are already at the printer. The third one is kind of being set. It's being set up at the printer, meaning we haven't seen any product from the factory yet. We are working on the 4th expansion.
Oh wow!
But we specifically intentionally decided to kind of hold that one back a little bit. Not that you're going to be seeing any particular delay in it, but we wanted to make sure that we got feedback from the masses before we did it, because we've got new rules and exciting new things coming up.
Yep.
And we want to see how people are reacting to some of the current stuff before we try to expand too far into new avenues and whatnot.
And that seems like a really healthy attitude to give it a little bit of time to hit the streets, to get put through its paces, get all that feedback, and then go ahead and make any tweaks that are necessary or any additions, touch things up, and then hit print, and we'll have that coming too. So that's pretty cool. 4 expansions on the way that we know of. So anybody who's thinking like, okay, am I going to get more clans? Am I going to get more options to create my deck and to customize it more? You absolutely are. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yep. People in Discord are already asking, when can I get the next set? Because I want more. So
I can say, that the first expansion, we were not going to leave you too long without more options, more clans, more things to play with. Speaking of clans, things to play with, and learning the game now that it's out, pretty happy to announce that database that we previewed a couple weeks ago, that is now live on the Vampire Card Game website. Right at the top, you'll see a card DB button.
Click that, on the Rivals page, right?
Yes, yeah, VampireCardGame.com.
Okay, at RenegadeGames.com, right?
No, it's the Vampire Card Game.
Oh,
website.
Okay, great.
The actual branded one.
Got it. Good.
VampireCardGame.com, or if you click from the Renegade site, it'll take you there, and you can click on the card DB and go through and search, filter, find the cards you're looking for to build your deck, just look up the rulebook clarifications are in there on the relevant cards, and we can go ahead and add more stuff like that as it comes up. But that is the web team's contribution to release day, and now they are able to focus on the actual deck builder, which I just had a really good meeting about earlier this week. Really like what they're going to be doing with it, and we'll have a sort of a firmer timeline soon on when that'll be ready. I know in the meantime, some very enterprising players made an Excel deck builder. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but I've seen it used, and it seems pretty cool. So if you're in the Discord, hit the community up for that. So next thing we have, pretty cool. If you are wondering about more information about the game and what's coming next, Elysium is going to be the place to be. So June 11th and 12th, here on Twitch, we are going to have a virtual convention, all things World of Darkness, covering the 5th edition role-playing game, of course, but also plenty of Rivals content. And Matt and myself, we've got 2 panels on Saturday. The big one,
it's a Friday, Saturday convention. So.
Yes. If you are looking to find out what's going to be happening next, 2 p.m. Pacific, here on twitch.tv/playrenegade, we will be having our Rivals panel. And I can tell you, we are going to open the floodgates of information and give you guys spoilers, give you peeks at the product line coming down the pipeline, all that kind of stuff. We'll be taking questions. Absolutely tune in for that and enjoy the show and be the first ones to know what's coming. I know, Matt, we got the go ahead to share not just information about the next thing, but maybe even a little bit beyond that, didn't we?
I have no idea what you're talking about. So.
Well, you'll have to tune in and find out, because it's going to be good. And then after that...
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. Okay.
After that, we are going to do the Create a Card panel again. So calling it from character to card, this time it's going to be Annabelle from LA by Night. We're going to be creating a card for Vampire the Masquerade Rivals for that character. It's a Bruja vampire Again, we've got a great art piece to go with that, and we want to have your help, the audience participation in statting that card out, in coming up with powers. Matt, you were there obviously for the last one with B. Dave Walters. Uh,
Yep.
Pretty cool experience and fun to get the input from players.
Yeah, yeah, it really it makes it gives a real depth to the character, right? When you put that on the table, there's history to it, right?
Yes.
Unlike some of the other made up characters, this guy, the B Dave's character is has got history, and having him out there should be a proud moment. So
Absolutely. So
mm,
for Elysium, plenty of cool content for the Rivals players. Please join us because especially for that creative card panel, audience participation makes such a huge difference and just makes it more interesting and more exciting. So don't miss that. Then another big thing we have coming for Rivals is, of course, Gen Con. So Matt, I'm going to be at Gen Con. I've heard you're going to be at Gen Con too, correct?
I will be there.
We have got the first Prince of the City event at Gen Con. So if you're wondering, is it worth going to Gen Con this year? I want to play Rivals, but I'm not sure. We will have Rivals there. It's going to be a big tournament. I imagine we'll have room for anybody who wants to come. So please come and join us. Win some really cool prizes. It's not just about winning though. If you show up and play, you will go home with some cool stuff. It's not just going to be, the top 4, top 8. They will get some really, really awesome and I think maybe a little bit jealousy inducing stuff, but everybody's going to go home really happy that they came and get some cool things. And Matt's going to be there helping run the tournament, answering rules questions, things like that, along with a really great crew of very capable judges. So
Now, Mr.
please join
Holland,
us.
will we
Yes.
have any kind of learn to play events for newbies who aren't ready for the Prince tournament?
That is a great question. We are not going to have traditional demos this year at Gen Con just due to the pandemic and social distancing and things like that.
Sure.
I would imagine if you're at Gen Con and you want to learn Rivals and you come by our tournament area, we could probably arrange for you to learn the game pretty easily because we will have plenty of space, plenty of seating, and plenty of people who know how to play the game. So that would be my advice. If you're at Gen Con, you want to taste, come by the tournament area where we're going to be holding the events and we can help you out. The booth is going to be obviously a little bit different from a normal Gen Con booth, just given the fact that this year and last year have been a little bit different years. So bear with us for that, but there'll be plenty of new releases, um, lots of things to do. Side events on Thursday, looking at the main event Friday and Saturday, and side events as well on Saturday for those of you who do not make the top cut. So if you want to play Rivals, there will be some Rivals for you to play almost every day of that show. Uh, that's a lot of news. That's a lot of stuff coming for Vampire Rivals, but I want to talk about what's here, which is that core set, and what are you going to be doing with that. So to that end, I reached out over the past couple weeks to some members of the community and some members of the Renegade staff, asked them to build a deck that they are interested in playing from the core set. Then to give me a little video of them talking about like what they like about that deck, maybe what the trick is or the gimmick, and then the deck list as well. So Matt and I are going to go through a couple of these deck lists here. Afterwards, we will post them online, the same place that we have the core set pre-constructed decks. So if you get the core set, you play pre-constructed a little bit. That's a lot of fun, but not every player is ready to jump straight into deck building. I mean, like that seems reasonable to you, right, Matt? Like you said, it's a
Yeah.
commitment.
Yeah, I would figure players are going to want to play each of the decks, pre-con decks, at least once as is, at least
Sure.
once, right? Whether that's 2 head-to-head matches or a couple of multiplayer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's going to give them a good sense of the sort of the flavor of each clan, their
Yeah.
strengths and weaknesses. So what we've all done is make some decks that are kind of the next step, usually combining 2 clans. I think in one case there's 3, just to show off some of the options. Now, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think any of these are going to be world-beating, world-class decks. They have not been heavily play tested and tuned within an inch of the life. That
Yeah.
said, they should be fun and thematic and give you a taste of something a little bit different. I know I saw, Matt, your deck list. I saw Sarah's. some of the other people's, and they do some things that are pretty different from the core set pre-con decks.
Mhm.
So we'll post these. You can build them if you want. You can tweak them. You can tell us that they're terrible. We won't be offended, but hopefully it'll be
One little
interesting.
comment. So Gen Con is in September, right?
Yes.
I don't know if I forget. I don't think you said August, but I may have been thinking that in my head because it's always August.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the first expansion will be out prior. So I would guess if the first expansion is out at least a month before the Prince event, we would include it. Would that be correct?
Yes. My current plan
Okay.
is that expansion should be out in time to be legal for the Prince of the City event.
Yep.
Any subsequent expansion will probably not be legal because we don't want to have a tournament where you show up and you couldn't get the new pack yet and you're at
Yeah.
a big disadvantage. That's obviously a feel bad moment.
Mhm.
Not going to have that happen. If we can get,
Yep. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was saying,
Oh,
I
you're
was
just
just
making
getting that
sure.
out of the way because that's a pro card gamers, first question whenever there's an event where there's an expansion coming, so.
Yes. If there is another product that we are able to have at Gen Con or something like that, it won't be legal for the main event. We will give you an opportunity if we have something like that to play it though at the event, at the convention.
Like a release event.
Something like that, yeah. It just
Cool.
won't be playable in the actual Prince of the City main event for the
Mhm.
reason that we just discussed.
Yeah.
So these decks, because of that, probably won't be the meta by the time we get to September. But those should be a nice way to start off and play around.
They're the current meta.
They could be. I don't know. I think there's some.
Yeah, we don't know. We're here to
Well, and
evaluate these decks. So.
the first three, if you want the real scoop, the first three are all from players who went undefeated in the Season 0 league. So these three players clearly know what they're doing when it comes to rivals. So they may be the best resource out
The
of
best
the
minds in the
9
game
of us.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Until the Prince tournament, they can claim to be top dogs. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Desiree, if you want to put up the video,
We'll call them barons.
The barons.
The barons. Three
This is
barons.
from Shunsen, who I believe was from Germany and went undefeated in the league. So he's going to talk a little bit about his deck. Then we'll put it up on the screen, and Matt and I can discuss what we think of his plan.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, family. Hendrik here, or Shunsen by my online nickname. Thanks for watching. As you've seen, I've just gotten out of my crypt. So I'm really looking forward to get my hands on physical cards for Vampire Rivals. It's a great game from what I've seen so far. The Season 0 League on Tabletopia was a great experience. Thanks for that, Matt, and Matt as well. I sent a deck list I was trying to think about. I'm going to put together once my physical cards reach me. And as you see, I love the Machiavellian style. I love those conspiracies idea and schemes. And what I love most about card games when I have the chance is drawing as many cards as I can to use all those possibilities. So I try to max out on the ability of Governor to draw cards and Valve to give me some additional economy, and therefore I'm trying to put together conspiracies and schemes in this deck so that I can trigger Governor for the conspiracies and also for the influence modifiers. So I'm really looking forward to this game, really looking forward to play this deck and hopefully seeing some of you at tournaments in the future. Thanks, bye.
Awesome. So I don't know about you, but that sort of archetype, I guess is the right word, is one that I have been really curious about as well.
Yeah. So he's going with a pretty standard Malkavian setup at the start, but has say again?
For the coterie, you mean?
Yeah, for the coterie. Well, even Agenda and Haven, those are the pre-constructed versions there. So and then he's got some Toreador in there as well, Iris, Bella, and John Cartoonin. So Very interesting. Yeah. So what he's talking about with that card draw is it looks like Governor is probably going to be his go-to leader.
Yep.
And Governor's ability is, when you resolve a face-down card or when you place a card face down to draw a card. So that's what he's talking about with the conspiracies and with the influence modifiers. Those are all placed face down. So that is going to get him that draw engine that he wants.
Okay. I didn't think about the influence modifiers triggering that too. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because it's when you place a card face down out of sight of combat, correct? There's
correct. Yes, outside of combat. Yeah, when you play an attack card, you don't get to draw for that, but you do. But conspiracies are played face down. Influence modifiers are played face down when you're going for a scheme. That's something to remember. If you're playing an influence modifier for a title, for instance, you do not place it face down. Okay. So you would not trigger Governor's draw.
And he does have a couple of titles. I see Seneschal and Herald in there too.
Yeah.
So I just think it's kind of neat with the combination of adding the schemes into the conspiracies and going for it that way.
There might be one little goings on here. He's got 3 copies of Greed in the deck, but I don't see, and Greed is a Ventru only. So Shunsen, there you go. He's not a Baron anymore. Now he's a
Mere Duke.
Yeah, Mere Duke. Yeah, but there's that's easy. He could easily swap out a couple characters. You'd probably want to swap out 2 of them. Governor and Inmate, Velvet, Bad Penny. Bad Penny's going to be good for staying alive and for Cloak of Shadows with her Obfuscate. He just doesn't have one thing. So actually, there are a couple of titles in here, which is good because he's got some different ways to get there. He can certainly win just with straight up conspiracies, but those conspiracies can also maybe take out somebody's prestige as well.
Yeah, and they can also just bleed the opponents a little bit so that you can score some points in other ways too. Give you more time to do that.
Yeah, there aren't any attack cards actually for what I'm seeing on this list. We haven't really studied these. I think Matt, you collected them and put them on here. I haven't seen these, so I'm just reacting to what I'm seeing here. And yeah, there's no combat cards, no attack cards. There's some defenses for sure.
Yeah. I think that's his thought here. A couple of these decks that were submitted are going for the forward up and score your points approach. There's also a couple that are going hell for leather, murder everyone. So we will we'll see all flavors here.
We will, I'm sure. Yeah. So basically,
this basic idea, I think it's kind of neat.
Yeah. So I would say that maybe I'm not convinced on those titles. I think a couple of attack cards is nice. Sometimes if your opponents figure out that you don't have any attack cards, they might not need to mend up their vampires much. Sure. And that gives them the card economy that you were looking for in the first place. So
you can also then, if they maybe can realize they can afford to play fast and loose in the streets, or go grab a risky Prince of the City because you're not going to punish them.
Right. Yeah, they could go after Princess City with with somebody and not worry about it much because you're probably not going to be able to do more than 1 damage to them. If you have a 2 and they have a 1, you can get in there, but you're not going to be able to do a lot to them if someone goes to the Prince. And if somebody manages to, if your rival manages to get themselves down to a single vampire, you really don't have too many ways to take advantage of that. So it may be that the titles could be replaced by some attack cards, I would think.
I also wonder if the titles are there to use the influence modifiers if they're not needed for the schemes.
Yeah,
because it's a good way to get value out of that, maybe.
Yeah, well, I would say 2 of those characters should probably switch to Ventru to take advantage of the greed because that is a good thing to have. So I suspect that, and as he was talking, he wants to trigger the card draw as much as possible. So he's going to be wanting to use the influence modifiers for schemes, because
Oh
then
yes,
they're
because then
going to
they're
play face
played face
down.
down.
So
Good call.
I would just, in my opinion, I would probably pull out those titles and change those into few combat cards, attack
That makes
cards.
sense.
That is, yeah.
Well, there you go. Straight from the word of the mouth of the designer. Next up, we've got another one of our undefeated players. This is Sid. Sid made I think it's a pretty cool video, so I'm going to throw that up on screen here. He definitely has he wins the award for best production value for the video, for sure. And you will see why in a second.
Great.
The video is ready now.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Amazing. That is literally what your vampires see every night.
Fortunate enough to be asked to share a deck with you tonight. I was also fortunate enough to go 5-0 in the Season 0 League, all with Toreador. I was so happy to be able to play my favorite faction in every matchup. And I was really excited at the chance to start deck building. So here's kind of what I came up with for a first go with Toreador. I went with Manipulate the Masses. I love schemes and playing schemes, and I wish there was more in the core deck. I knew right away I wanted to focus on schemes. And this agenda just, of course, helps you score the necessary agenda points while you're getting those schemes scored. The Haven, I had kind of a weird choice with Haven. I thought I was going to go Post Office because it's an obvious choice. You get a lot of extra influence, but it also means you have to include more cards with blood potency on them in order to use them, right, as influence modifiers. So instead, I went with the Artist Lofts just to give me a lot of extra draw. I know it's not really a net gain, but being able to churn through your deck like that and get the pieces you need is really important for this deck. So that's where I went for Agenda and Haven. For the Coterie, you can see it's a team up between Toreador and Ventrue. These are my two favorite factions. I knew I wanted to splash in Ventrue because they have a really, really powerful scheme in Greed. And
Greed coming
it
up again.
allows you to really score a lot of agenda points in a single round. Bunny, Iris, and Bruno are all MVPs in this deck because they make it go. Speaking of making it go, here's kind of the engine that I work with. You can see Greed right there is kind of the MVP of the deck. Though Fame and Fortune is also amazing because if you have Bunny out there, if you're paying with it with a last word influence modifier, you're getting a ton of prestige and you're scoring agenda points. And then you can turn right around and spend those prestige points on your PR firms to make you go even faster. Search engine to make sure you're getting the right cards at the right time. Balance of Power helps with that kind of prestige bankrupt secondary theme, and it of course is also still pushing schemes. Mercy's in there as a panic button because I'm worried about Bruja blasting me out of my haven and bleeding me in the streets. So Mercy's there to kind of get back into the game plan without losing too many turns. And at the same time, hopefully scoring a scheme and getting more agenda points. So here's the deck list overall. It's a tight 40 cards in the library, a few pieces to deal with like the Inquisition. There's some defensive pieces in Fleetness and in Steal the Spotlight because I don't want to take too much damage when I don't have to. But mostly it's all about getting those schemes as quick as possible and using your vampires really effectively to speed to that win condition. I think it's going to be a really fun deck. I hope you try it. And I can't wait to get these cards on the table. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
So there we have it. We'll throw his deck list up on the screen ourselves. Yeah, what do you think, Matt?
Yeah. Toreador Ventrue is a strong scheme deck for sure, especially because they have the two clan-only schemes that can give agenda and also prestige. Yeah, this is a good. It's a tight coterie. The only thing about it is it's like almost everything is 4, 5, and 6. There's 1 3 cost in there.
So it's expensive.
So, yeah, it's expensive, but with the mercies, it's possible. So it depends. He's probably going to get out. I'm guessing Li Ju Chen is his first.
I think as a general rule, the first one will be the leader.
Okay.
That they either nominated, or if they didn't nominate, I just assume the top one was the leader.
Right. Although, you know what, he's got he's got some ongoings in there. Bruno Wagner would not be a bad leader for this, and a 5-cost leader, it will allow you to get 3 characters out quickly without knocking yourself too low.
Sure.
You don't want to. That's one thing I'm always interested in seeing is how much do people spend in the first 2 rounds of the game, right? You're pretty much always going to be recruiting on turn 1, but are you going to recruit on turn 2? Most of the time, the answer is yes. And he's got some big bodies out there. Couple 4s and or one 4 mostly, or 2 4s, I guess. So yeah, he's going to be able to get out 3 vampires, and then hopefully get a Fame and Fortune going, or some other way.
That'll help his economy a little bit.
Yeah, he can get a little bit out of the hedge your bets, or which one is which. I should have had a list of all the cards ready. I'm trying to remember.
You can pull up that nifty card database, Matt.
Oh, that's so true. I could. Yeah.
I actually use that a lot in preparing my deck, just to find
wonderful.
the cards that would trigger the abilities, things like that.
Right.
It's very nice to have access to that.
Actually, I think it's the last. Yeah, the last word gives you some prestige. But I think so this. Especially with trying to run the PR firm and with influencer requiring some prestige as well, this deck is probably going to want to start out with 2 characters and then figure out how to get some prestige, extra prestige by turn 2 or 3. Otherwise,
so they don't dip into the danger zone.
Yeah, you kind of don't want to. I don't recommend going below 5. So you probably have about 15 to spend. So that's an easy way to think of it as a 6, a 4, and a 5, right? That's 15, and you're probably good. And then you can get it going. I would say with that amount of ongoing, yeah, Bruno is a good choice. But I also wonder if search engine is really necessary, because, as he said, it's an unusual choice to go with the Artist's Lofts instead of something like the old post office.
Yeah.
And so he's his haven is going to be working all the time, starting. It's probably going to trigger 4 or 5 times in the first 5 turns, right? With his leader being exhausted. So I'm not sure that the search engine is necessary. I do like that he's got the rain on your parade and a biting comment, and even kneecapped in there.
Yeah, kneecapped is a great inclusion for pesky.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to take much damage. He's got the defenses in there and whatnot. But I would say, and I would guess by those social attack cards that Li Ju is his leader.
Yeah.
But you can take a deck like this, and just changing your leader is going to change the way that deck plays out by, I don't know, 33%, because it's just going to take you on a different trajectory, depending on.
And that's an interesting thing about the game in general. If you get into a multiplayer game and you put down Li Shu and a player across the table does too, you're going to have to do the bid to determine who ends up actually playing her. And you do need to have a plan for. I mean, I would say at least have a plan for what do I do if my first choice is not available to me.
Yeah.
And maybe have a plan for a second choice too. If you're in a 4-player game, you could very easily run into a situation where your vampires are in demand. That's going to become hopefully less of an issue, or it's going to probably become less of an issue as the pool deepens and widens. But be aware of it. Don't just think, oh, Li Shu is the linchpin. Without Li Shu, this does not work, because you could pay a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Bruno would probably be a great backup there. But yeah, it's solid. It's got everything you'd want in there. I would say it might, like Stevie Osborne is, gain a prestige when you gain a title. There's only 3 titles in there, so I'm not sure about that. I would say maybe Stevie Osborne could be swapped out for a lower cost card, perhaps a 3. Yeah.
I wonder if she's there to maybe, like, if the thinking of her being there is to justify her cost by earning some of it back with her ability. I could see that being the logic.
I mean, I guess it's possible that with influencer out there that you could get you might be able to get a free title, which in case you would gain prestige. But I think between the Fame and Fortune and the Last Word, that I think your prestige is gonna come. So
Sure.
yeah. So I don't know. So far I've been saying, yeah, pull those titles out, But you know what? They're good titles. It's also a good defensive play. If you are low
Can't
on
wait till he
prestige,
sees my deck.
oh boy, yeah. If you're low on prestige, you want to have the Seneschal title, not somebody else. Otherwise, they're just going to keep racking on your prestige. So, yeah, this is pretty solid. Stevie Osborne, I would say is a maybe for me, but otherwise, I like that it's got a little bit of combat in there, even though it is not. It's not. I guess a biting comment can steal a prestige, so that's a way to do it.
So there's a couple ways to make the money to
yeah.
spend to play some of those more expensive vampires.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's show. I don't have a video for Ignathus, but Desiree, if you could go ahead and throw their deck list up. Ignathus was our third undefeated player in the Season 0 League, and made a pretty neat little deck here that, boom, we have right here. So different agenda and Haven choice from what we've seen so far. And this is what, Malkavian and Toreador, correct?
Malkavian, Toreador, and Zhang Wei is from Ventrue, actually.
Oh, and splashing a little bit of Ventrue.
Yeah, there's some splash. Mostly Malkavian, 2 Toreador, and 1 Ventrue. Interesting. That is a crazy combination of agenda and Haven there.
So House of Pain. Let's talk. House of Pain gives the additional damage when you discard a card.
Discard a card. Yeah, it's a leader ability. So your leader, who, well, okay, you're saying Governor is the leader here.
That would be my read of the deck list.
Yeah. Okay. Well. All right. That's interesting. It looks like, this deck is. I think I'm seeing why. Okay. I think I'm getting it here. So,
and let's just talk. The end is nigh. That is the first time you resolve. It's the default Malkavian one. The first time you resolve a conspiracy during each of your turns, gain 1 prestige and 2 agenda.
Yeah. So there are how many? There's Whispering Campaign. That
everything is connected.
And Lost Glory, and Burning Down the House, and Lost Glory. So there's five agenda in there, interestingly enough.
5 conspiracies, right?
Sorry. 5 conspiracies in there. 5 cards for your agenda is what I was trying to say. Okay, interesting. So it looks like I would have to, this is interesting because I suspect the Governor is going to be the leader. Li Ju Chen would not be a terrible backup. I can see what they're going for here. So with Faulty Logic, Backhanded Compliment, and a Biting Comment, those are all prestige. Those are all
prestige hits.
Yeah, hits to your opponent's prestige.
And then Seneschal's in there too.
And Seneschal is in there too. Yeah. So interesting. And of course the Whispering Campaign steals prestige as well. Interesting. So the House of Pain, I would have loved to have heard him say it, but I suspect that the House of Pain is there mostly to manipulate the Backhanded Compliment. Because when you're attacking with the Backhanded Compliment, you don't, if you want them to drop the prestige, you don't want to knock them out. But you also want to be able to do enough damage to actually make it painful, right? Because Backhanded Compliment forces you to use your prestige to mend instantly. So it's like you take 2 damage, you got to mend it instantly with prestige. So I suspect that House of Pain is there to make the Backhanded Compliment just that 1 deadlier when it can be. But in a case where you might accidentally knock out their vampire, you wouldn't use the House of Pain.
Okay. Yeah. So you can trigger the House of Pain during the attack during
the attack. Yep. Yeah. After you see, because if if they play a reaction, they might not take any damage, and you want to be able to get something through. So that's a good way to do it. Interesting.
Cool. This
Yeah,
is why
actually,
it's nice
so
to
I
have
do
you,
see.
who's super familiar with the cards, to be able to like grok out how that works just off of the
Yeah,
looking at the deck list there. So I was
right.
wondering,
And
how does House of Pain fit in here? But that's a really interesting insight.
yeah, I suspect that's what it's from. So looking at it, I noticed he had it in alphabetical order or close to that, or no, maybe not. So there are a few more conspiracies all tied up, I just noticed.
Yeah.
But Demand Obedience as well is another prestige.
It's going to
hit.
cost
So
them
this
prestige
one,
too.
say again?
It's going to cost them 2 prestige.
Yeah, it's going to knock their prestige. So this deck is, and that's why Zhang Wei is in this deck. Of course, Zhang Wei is featured on the Demand Obedience card, just in case you didn't know who's the best character to play it with. Their picture's right on it. Yeah, this deck is going to has all the ways to knock somebody's prestige down.
Is that a design ethos that's going to be carried forward? Like if you see somebody on the card, they're a pretty good match. Is that I should say, like, in a serious question, is that an intentional thing that you do and that people can kind of expect to make sense?
Yeah, it is intentional. We like to have, hey, this is what is this guy doing and what kind of cards does he like? And if there's a good synergy there, we're like, let's just put him on the card. Now, sometimes during play testing, we'll switch a card around a little bit. So for instance, Backhanded Compliment features John Cartoonin on there, who's only a 3 BP character, so he can't play the card. So it's because he originally was higher, but we moved him lower, and we're like, well, the art is already done. We'll just leave it, and that's fine. So
okay,
yep.
That's cool insight.
Yeah. So
all right.
I
like it.
Beware. You better hope. Yeah. If you see this this combo coming at you, you better save your prestige or figure out some ways of gaining some pretty quick. It's gonna knock you down pretty fast.
Nice. We'll go ahead and show. So Alex, we're going to show next. He is the 16-year-old son of our customer service staff member. So they've apparently been playing a ton of Rivals. He's super into it, and he was excited to make a deck and share it with you guys. So I'm going to show Alex's video here, and we will then talk about his deck. But Matt, be nice, because he's only 16 and he's Jenny's son.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I have created the Reckless Politicians deck, a combination of the Bruja and Ventru starter decks. I basically chose an agenda at random from the core set, and I came up with the Hunt the Hunters agenda, and I thought Ventru and Bruja would definitely be a good combination for killing the SAD cards. The Ventru side of it lets you cycle through the city deck, where the Bruja side of it lets you very efficiently take out all your enemies. It's a relatively versatile deck, and as long as you don't get too completely unlucky, it should work fine in any situation. So I hope you enjoy the game and enjoy my deck.
Cool. Let's throw that up on screen.
Yeah.
So that's speaking of what Alex said there. That's a kind of a neat idea too. If you're looking for inspiration for a new deck to try, pick an agenda and make a deck that is designed to play that agenda. Sometimes you can start the other way. I know I want to play Toreador and Ventru or something, and then you pick the agenda to match. But there's nothing that says you have to do it that way. You can sometimes get into interesting deck design space by looking at starting from a different point, I should say.
Yeah. I do suspect that agenda will be most players' number one thing that they'll look at, but you really do need to look at the havens like almost right alongside them. But like you said, it is fair to just grab an agenda that you haven't looked at in a while and just say like, then start looking at the havens and figure out, hey, where does this fit up? Where does this match up the best? I might be able to come up with something that no one else has done in my play group, even though we've been playing
and especially if you're just looking for playing at home and you're not concerned about, if you want just variety and you're not looking for the world beater, this is a great way to get something that you
Yeah.
would maybe not have come across another way. So
No.
Alex is Hunt the Hunters, and the Haven is Royal Retreat. Matt,
Yeah.
remind me what Royal Retreat does.
Right. Royal Retreat is it's the haven that it gives your titled characters +1 influence, but it also allows you once during your turn to remove a mortal from the streets and
Yes.
put it into the discard pile and add the top card. So with the agenda Hunt the Hunters, what that Royal Retreat is doing is it's probably getting rid of citizens or occasionally a vagrant in hopes of getting more special affairs division out there, because if you've got Hunt the Hunters agenda, if you can take out an SAD, you're going to score 1 agenda naturally for taking out an SAD, but then you're also going to score 1 agenda and gain 1 prestige because of Hunt the Hunters.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And then they also get shuffled back in due to the agenda.
Yes, correct. So right, normally when an SAD is defeated, it'll go into a discard pile, and then when the city deck is depleted, you will shuffle everything from the discard pile back into the deck. But with Hunt the Hunters, anytime an SAD is defeated, not burned, if it's burned somehow, then it would be gone forever. But if it's defeated, you actually shuffle it back in immediately. So it is a much greater chance of coming out subsequently. And as the deck wears down, almost every other card is going to be an SAD, which is great for Hunt the Hunters.
Yeah. So they kind of put a clock on the game. As those become more common, they're going to be able to score more. We're going to go a little quicker just because we're going to otherwise run out of time showing these videos.
Is this deck is very similar to mine, actually, so we can just skip mine. That'll save us some time.
Oh, we're not going to skip yours, man.
Okay. Well, anyway, we can see different. This is a popular combination: Hunt the Hunters and Royal Retreat. So one thing he said in the video is,
I thought you didn't use Hunt the Hunters, or did you?
Oh no, I did in my deck. Yeah. So one thing in the video I just wanted to make clear. So he said I'm using the Ventru Royal Retreat. All havens and agenda are neutral.
Clan neutral, yeah.
Clan agnostic. So far, I mean, we could have
that is the default pre-constructed haven.
It's
so
fair.
I think that's
it's fair to call it. It's fair to call it the Ventru haven, but I wouldn't want that to become the parlance of the day. So yeah. So a lot of you got your kneecaps in there. You got a lot of attack cards. That's good, and some defensive.
Baseball bat also great against the SAD.
And then titles, because why not? You've got your greed and mercy and things like that. If you're going to run Royal Retreat, why not run a couple of titles just to up your influence? You can make those influence deck or those scheme decks really give them a run for their money, even though you don't really care all that much about the influence, but it's great defensively.
Yes, indeed. Next, we're going to show Marty from the podcast and YouTube, everything podcast, Rolling Dice and Taking Names. Marty is a big board game content creator and has been super excited about Rivals. So he made a pretty cool deck and a video to talk about it. So I'm going to throw him up on the screen.
Hi, my name.
And I will start it. You good there, Desiree? Hopefully.
Hi, my name is Marty Connell from Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and I've been playing collectible card games and expandable card games for about 20 years now. I was excited to try out Rivals as a new competitive game that I've been wanting to sink my teeth into. Get it? One thing I love about this game is there's multiple paths to victory. So the first deck I built was one where I wanted to get to 13 agenda points as quick as possible. So what I did is I mixed some Toreador and Ventru vampires together and built a library that had all the influence modifier cards and a lot of schemes and a lot of titles. Then I would try to attach the titles and basically earn points through the agenda of base of power, which is every time I attach a title, I get 2 agenda points. And to make sure I can try to boost my influence through the old post office haven, which is anytime I can flip over the top card of my deck. If it has a blood potency value of 1 to 3, I can add that to my influence modifier. So I tried to then stuff my deck full of cards that have blood potency from 1 to 3. My whole goal of the game was sit back in the haven, try to do those schemes, try to attach some titles, and actually not fight. I didn't have one attack card in this deck. I had reaction cards in case somebody came after me, but no attack. After playing my first game, I did find out I might need to splash some attack cards in there because I found that going out into the street and sometime taking out a mortal might be helpful because you can mend by burning a lot of the mortals, or things like vagrants, attach them to block damage, which I found was especially useful when there was 3 sad cards sitting in the streets pinging me every turn. And that was kind of annoying after a while. This is my first run at the deck. Again, I like playing ones that are a little bit different. I didn't want to get in anybody's face and just start punching, maybe like somebody who's a big fan of Brujah wanted to do. Instead, I wanted to kind of do my own thing. I need to tweak this thing over time and try to make it better, but I can't wait to explore many other options with the different types of vampires and other cards to stick in my library. And I look forward to playing this game for many, many years.
Well, awesome. That's Marty's deck. Marty, little spoiler, he has a similar idea to mine, although I ended up not trying the old post office because I didn't want to have to worry about the 1 to 3 cost with my cards. But I think that is a valid plan to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you said, though, for the other player who did not include attack cards, he and Marty even said he realized that attack cards can be pretty clutch at the right time.
Yeah, it's good to have a few. You're gonna want some. You may not need to go overboard, but you're gonna want some. One thing I do want to mention, he said something in his video there that he could take that the old post office allowed him to take the top card of his deck, and if it was a 1 to 3 BP, then he would get that. It's actually from your hand, and it says that on the card. Easy to mix that up when you're on camera, though. So just keep that in mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So another cool idea for you. Now we are going to get into the Renegade staff. So Jimmy Lee, who y'all have seen on the stream a couple times, Jimmy built a deck here, and we are going to see what he has to say about it. Jimmy has played a lot of card games, with me actually, and has been my competition when we were learning this game. So let's hear what he has to say.
Hey everyone, Jimmy here, presenting my Vampire Rivals deck. My favorite part about any new card game is just flipping through that pack of cards and just finding like cool keywords or abilities that I can chain together and try and make tick. This deck here is a scheme deck and is really going to depend on Bruno's ability to draw a card whenever you play an ongoing effect. The game plan is to play a ton of ongoing effects and really establish a powerful base of passive effects. From there, we can use vampires like Bunny and Flick and Iris to get a lot of extra influence and get a lot of extra value out of playing our schemes. We'll be able to use those abilities to bully our opponents out of really winning any of our schemes. And with cards like Hedge Your Bets, we don't even have to win them sometimes in order to get a little extra mileage out of them. This deck is really going to want to avoid going out into the streets and is going to be really vulnerable to some aggressive attacking decks. We only have a few reactions, so cards like Keeper of Elysium, the Masquerade, Emergency Blood Bags, and Mercy Schemes are really going to be important to preventing your coterie from getting wiped out. Sometimes you can't really help it. There are going to be cards that are going to force you out into the streets. So if you want to fight back, Bella is an option in the faction deck, and with the few attacks in this deck, you're almost guaranteed to get a lot of mileage out of her ability. Likewise, Beauty is a Beast and Biting Comment provide Bruno the opportunity to get out there and pick up some retainers or further tax your opponent's prestige base. Be really careful to maintain the Masquerade, otherwise you're going to be really vulnerable when or if your opponent chooses to swing back. I hope you have a whole ton of fun with this game. I'm really excited to see what people come up with and shake it out. So, have fun. Welcome to the family.
Awesome. So Jimmy, a little bit different take on the Venture Toreador, which we've seen, and you're going to see again here in a minute. But going with the old post office again.
Yeah, Bruno with several, a lot of ongoing. So First Tradition, Long-Term Investment, PR Firm, Beauty's a Beast, Influencer, Third Authority. Yeah, he's got a ton of ongoing. So Bruno is the is a perfect choice. And he's definitely going to want to, if someone else shows up with Bruno, he's going to want to bid an extra prestige or two to get that for sure. Other than that, yeah, he's got all the characters you would want in an influence deck, and some combat cards, which is good. Mostly defenses though, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking pretty solid. Yeah, I would say that with the old post office, he might have wanted to go like a biting comment. That's a 4 BP. It's probably a good idea to have all of your attack cards be 1 to 3 BP. I'll just mention that.
Just to keep it very consistent.
Yeah, just so that you never have the wrong card at the wrong time,
Cool. Well, we've seen a lot of these kind of play it close to the vest, score your points in different ways. Sarah brings us something a little bit different and much more bloody. So let's go ahead and see what Sarah Erickson brings to the table.
Hello, I'm Sarah Erickson, the VP of Sales and Marketing here at Renegade Game Studios, and I built a fun Bruja deck to share with you today. This deck really functions around the various ranged attacks, boosted by Beretta's ability, spend blood for +1 damage. Ta-da! And Brother's ability, which is exhaust to give
also turf war.
+1 damage, and the House of Pain's ability, which allows you to discard cards to give your leader +1 damage for the attack. So there's a lot of ways that you can add extra damage when you attack. It's not a subtle deck, and there's no real way to score agenda other than taking out vampires and mortals, but it is very good at attacking, which, as a newer player, I really appreciate. You can really capitalize on any player having a wounded vampire thanks to turf wars, and you've got a lot of aggravated damage to really punish mistakes. The vampire selection includes a lot of celerity to really get the most out of drive-by and a host of other useful abilities. The sole non-Bruja vampire in this deck, Montgomery White, has an ability that says this party has +1 defense against ranged attacks. And the reason I have that in there is because it comes along really handy, because if I put it in play before my opponents do, they won't be able to play it. So I deny them that extra defense against my ranged attacks. If your coterie takes damage in the fighting, you've got a good option for mending through Johnny, spoils, and blood bags. This is helpful since you'll often have to spend cards to get intel for your attacks, and Beretta will be spending blood to deal her increased damage. Hope you enjoy this deck idea. Have fun. Bye.
So a totally different take. No schemes, no titles, no conspiracies, just brutal murder.
Just like Sarah, just go for the throat and don't let go. So yeah, using the Bruja's standard pre-con turf war and House of Pain, Beretta as your leader, great for all those ranged attacks. Brother can increase the damage. House of Pain can increase the damage. So like she said, a Molotov cocktail thrown by Beretta can actually do the base 1 damage from the cocktail, +1 from Brother, and +1 from the House of Pain. So that could three aggravated.
And +1 from Beretta.
I think I said that. 1 for the Molotov, 1 for Beretta, 1 for Brother. Oh yeah, you're right.
The base card.
1 for House of Pain. You're right.
That's brutal.
That is brutal. Yeah, so those Molotov cocktails can be nasty. And
then drive-by potentially hitting, 2 or 3 characters.
Oh, I would say.
It could be very, very scary.
I would say, 2 or 3. I would say it's going to hit everyone in the party, probably, you know. And then, even
smoke them out to set some of those big plays up.
Smoke them out. That's additional aggravated damage. So yeah, that's just a nasty deck. It's got all of the ranged cards in it, I believe, and sucker punches as well. So you're just.
I like that. While it's still Bruja, it still feels mechanically different from your Bruja Precon, which functions around Hydra and things like that. Like this is a very different but still very aggressive deck, and I think will be kind of cool to play.
Indeed.
Let's see. Well, with that, we are on to my deck, and I didn't pre-record a thing. We'll just throw it up on the screen and talk about it a little bit. It's a variation on some of the decks we've seen from Jimmy, and I think Marty too. So I did Base of Power and the Royal Retreat. Kind of my thinking here was when I played Ventru
Mhm.
and saw like Bruno's ability, yeah, I wanted to get a lot of more mileage out of that ability, much like Jimmy said. I
Mhm.
also wanted to get a lot of titles into play and just get so much influence that I can control the scheme game and also
Yep.
play my titles very, very easily. Uh, I also just personally, I like long-term investment. It just feels good to me to get. It's one of the few ways to get really good, consistent, additional
Mhm.
prestige.
Yeah.
So that's going to help me play the additional vampires that I need to play additional titles to score more points. I've got my greeds in there to get some more points and make it so I don't have to get every single title in play.
Yep.
But that's kind of the general idea. It's a riff on like what Jimmy had done, and I
Yeah.
think Marty. But I did a lot more titles.
I like you got long-term investment and free money, so you're just hoping
Yeah.
to get a lot of prestige, which is good. Which is good. This is I think probably the more classic Ventru Toreador, because the Royal Retreat can get you that quick agenda, but it's going to cut off at about 6. But
Yeah.
because you have those titles now, you're going to have extra influence, which is going to help your scheme game to get you from 6 to 13, and it's real good. Yep.
Yep. I
I
also
would.
talked about putting other options would be putting in Fame of Fortune or Royal Review. Royal Review is probably more money than you need, but Fame and Fortune could be a little bit more agenda too.
Yeah, Royal Review is probably better in a deck that's just titles, like just all titles,
Straight up.
But
Yeah.
is where you might be able to get 4 characters out there with titles, but it's still decent. So there's always going to be some little changes you can do. I see you have you have a few attacks, decent. So
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Wanted to keep a couple, and I love Dignity of the Office for the defense. It's just so strong and can shut down
Yep.
some like really swingy plays.
Oh yeah.
So that is mine. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Hyra himself created a deck that Desiree will throw up, and he can now defend it against the internet.
Well, yeah. All right. So Hunt the Hunter's Royal Retreat. Like I said, this is a popular combo because you want to be able to hunt more efficiently. So Hydra as your leader, he's going to get you a lot of card draw. There's blood bags. There's ways of a little bit of healing here and there. First tradition, the Masquerade, because if you're fighting against the SAD, you're going to be out in the street. And the deck also, so it's really a 3. It's Bruja, Ventru with some small Malkavians. Street Preacher, this is something that I think is fun in a Hunt the Hunters deck, because if someone else tries to take out one of the SAD, you can just throw the Street Preacher in the way of that attack, and now they're attacking the Street Preacher instead, saving the SAD for you to attack.
That's
so,
a nice trick.
Yeah, and there's even a couple of titles in here, 3 Herald and 3 Primogen. You want those Herald, you'd love to get a Herald on turn 1, because then you can bring out a lot of characters. So you notice there's a lot of small characters, right? Flick, Street Preacher, Jesus, those are gonna be like very cheap to get out. But, and the deck has a lot of big attacks, and you also want a little bit of variety, because you want to be able to make targeted attacks against foes where they can't take it. I also threw Marked Man in there just because you might occasionally, late in the game, you might want to, or not late, just whenever, if there aren't any SAD out there, you might find that you are ahead of everyone else on agenda, and you want them to stop looking at your characters, so you can mark someone, and then that'll make them a target in a multiplayer game.
Sure.
In a 2-player game, you probably want to, you mark them and then you take them down, and you're going to get extra agenda out of it. So this is kind of, a speed.
Dual purpose.
Speed agenda by way of attacking.
Cool.
Yeah.
I saw that. I think you and one of the other players used First Tradition Masquerade. I thought that was a really interesting card. Didn't end up making the cut for my deck, but really thematic and just a neat thing to include in a deck where it makes sense.
The reason for it, so it does cost 2 prestige to put out, obviously, because it's very powerful. But keep in mind, Hunt the Hunters is going to gain you a prestige every time you take out an SAD. And then you also have a couple of influence modifiers, so the last word can also get you some prestige. So you should be able to pay for it, and your characters are small, especially if you have the Herald.
Karasu has a question about 3 Primogen. Can you only have 1? Is that a restriction
Yeah.
on the Primogen card?
Yeah, it's 1 per player. I mean, all titles are unique except for Primogen. So even putting 3 Herald in there is just trying to get it in your opening hand or close to it. So 3 Primogen is just there. It's the reason for
it's
the
1 per
Primogen
player
is-
in play. It's
Yeah.
not 1 per player in your deck, I guess is probably the distinction that needs to be made there for Karasu.
Yeah, Primogen, each player in the game can have a Primogen amongst their coterie would be the better way to
Whereas
say it.
any other unique cards are 1 person in the game, period. And that's how
Correct.
all the other titles function.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's a couple title decks fighting it out, they're going to be chasing each other down for the titles, trying to get the titles. So 3 Primogen is not necessary, obviously, but if you want to draw it, you might want to get 3 in there. It's good for the influence because there are greeds in there, so you're going to want to get either Montgomery or Zhang Wei out there to get those greeds going, because Hunt the Hunters will get you that steady, almost starting on turn 2 or 3, almost every turn you're going to be able to take down an SAD. But you've got but it only works on the first SAD each turn. You're going to want to have that influence late to be able, with your second action on turn 6.
Do something else to make some points somewhere else.
Take out an SAD and then go for a greed. And you've got the titles because the Royal Retreat will give you that extra influence. So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, and of course, you're going to need discards during the game, and discarding extra titles that you don't need because you already have it in play is totally fine. You're going to need intel, and you're going to need to do some mending at the end of your turn.
And that's just a good point to make in general. Like including 3 of something does not necessarily mean that you're going to play 3. It's to get the consistent draw. And a lot of people who are newer to card games don't necessarily think about that. And that's the other reason we've talked about before, why sometimes it's advantageous to only run 40 cards instead of the max 60 or somewhere in between. You'll see a given card more often or more frequently with less cards.
Yeah, I guess that's Caruso does make a good point. It says on the card 1 per player, and so there may be a confusion. Oh, does that mean you can only have 1 in your deck? But it's not the case, and I think the rulebook might mention it. So if there was going to be a card that was limit of 1 per deck, believe me, we would have flashing lights on the card so that you would know.
Correct.
Yep.
Well, cool. That was our sort of brainstorm deck sharing session idea blast for all of you who are either now opening your core set or who are going to head to your friendly local game store shortly and pick it up. I'm going to get all of these on the website tomorrow, and you'll be able to check them out on our pre-constructed deck list page, which you can find on like the new to Rivals page of the Vampire card game website. So the PDFs will be up there, so you can easily build these, reference them. You can riff on them if you'd like to. If you play one and have a great experience, please let us know on social media, on Facebook or Twitter. Talk about who made that deck and what you really liked about it and what inspired you about it. But hopefully it gives you some meat, some ammunition to get started playing and enjoying Vampire Rivals.
Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody who is watching, thanks for tuning in. Again, Vampire Rivals is finally out. If you don't have it yet, you can now go and pick it up. And please join us for Elysium, June 11th and 12th. Learn what's coming, not just for Rivals, but for Vampire the Masquerade role-playing as well. And join us at Gen Con if, of course, you are able to and are comfortable. Come play some Rivals, our first major event, win some cool prizes, and hang out with what's going to be a really great community and the whole family there at the show. Yeah, the Elysium June 11-12 is actually just like a weekend of Vampire stuff, including the role-playing game and Rivals. So there's a lot. There's not just 2 panels. There's 7 or 8. 7 or 8. We're also going to be premiering a new Vampire role-playing live play show. It's going to be really cool. We're going to have an LA by Night special. We're going to have a lot of stuff going on. So check it out. I think Desiree put the link in the chat earlier. It's going to be a lot of fun. But until next week, have an excellent night and get out there and play some Vampire, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.